Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kristen, and here we explore an experiential approach to spiritual awakening and conscious manifestation, or as I like to call it, the law of reflection. Please bear with me, guys, with my current setup. I am currently traveling, and the apartment that I'm in is not very filming friendly, lighting wise, noise wise. So I'm kind of just going off the cuff here and just filming absolutely anywhere that I can get a clear picture. So, in today's video, I want to talk about alignment. A few of you have asked me to clarify what I mean by this, how to get into alignment, and most importantly, how to stay in alignment. Getting into alignment is the same as getting into the state. So I know that in the manifestation community, the terminology of getting into the state, being in the state of your desire is what is more often used now than the term alignment, as it's often associated with law of attraction rather than law of assumption. But I'm going to briefly explain why I don't like to use the term state as much and why I prefer the term alignment, even though I'm using them in the exact same way, and I will be using them interchangeably throughout this video. So, firstly, it's not that the term states is wrong, but I do feel that alignment better describes the process. And also because there is a lot of confusion and mixed teachings around what a state actually is. It is very easy to confuse the word state with emotional state, i.e., the mood that you're in. And this idea of being in the state becomes about having a heightened emotion or being in a good mood all of the time. And this is not accurate because, firstly, a state is not a mood. And you can be in a state of alignment with your desire and still experience a range of different moods, emotions, or thoughts. And this is not a problem when we know how to actually work with them. When we confuse the word state to mean our mood, this can lead you to feel that you have to be in the same mood all day, or if you come out of this mood or you feel sadness or you feel frustration or fear or anything else, that this now means you're not in the state anymore. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you are experiencing a transient, temporary mood or feeling or thoughts. It doesn't mean that you're no longer in alignment. It isn't the unwanted emotion or unwanted thoughts that bring you out of alignment. It is you declaring that you are now out of alignment, reacting to that perception, and then perpetuating the story. And that is what brings you out of the state of alignment. I often call this falling at the first hurdle because actually opposing thoughts or feelings or emotions or reacting to a circumstance is all part of the manifestation process. It's not actually a problem. And you can use all of these things as opportunities to deepen yourself into alignment and therefore experience the desire quicker. They can actually help you when you know how to work with them. But when we treat them as an obstacle, or this means I'm no longer in the state now, and we start giving up, we get frustrated because we're not in the state. That is not because we were feeling something that brought us out of it. It's because we decided we're no longer in the state. Remember, a state is not a mood. So, to illustrate this, imagine that you are driving in the car and you put in your destination on the navigator. You are now in alignment with your destination, right? You're in the state of the end location, the desired location. And it was just as simple as setting the intention to go to that destination and putting it into the navigator. Now you're in alignment with where you want to go. Now imagine that as you begin driving and you're following the directions, Imagine that someone cuts you up while you're in traffic or that they pull out in front of you. And maybe you feel frustrated, maybe you get a little bit of road rage, right? Would you then say to yourself, I'm out of the state, I'm no longer going to get to my desired location? Would you start panicking and feel like you have to feel good for the entire drive there in order to get there? No, you wouldn't. You would not do this if you were driving. But people do this with manifestation all the time. They experience a mood they don't like, they declare they're not in the state, they start giving up. And that is what brings them out of alignment, not anything else. Imagine that you took a wrong turn. Do you feel that just because you took one wrong turn that you're never going to get there now, that you're out of alignment with the desire, that you're out of alignment with the destination? What if you ran into traffic? Would you say, right, not in alignment anymore, switch the engine off, get out the car, completely abandon it, give up? No, you wouldn't do that because all of these things are part of driving. The same way that circumstances arising, reactions, unpleasant emotions, spiraling, intrusive thoughts, these are all part of the process too. It's not that these things are an issue, it's about how you navigate them and use them to your advantage to get deeper into alignment. Being in alignment or being in the state works exactly the same way as driving to a destination works. So, how do we get into alignment then? Well, firstly, get crystal clear on what it is that you want. The same way that if you were putting something into the car navigator, you wouldn't say, well, maybe I want to go here or maybe I want to go there. You would be precise about the location you want to go to. Now, by this, I'm not saying that the desire can't be more general and that it has to be specific. Both general and specific desires are clear desires. But as long as you are clear on the end goal, whether it's that you want to manifest a new home or you want to manifest a specific house, as long as you are clear on the end goal, then that's great. Then, when you are in meditation, visualize the desire. And it doesn't have to be a picture perfect scene. So I know that there can be a lot of teachings in the community that make it sound like it does, or that if you visualize in third person instead of first person, this somehow affects everything. No, it doesn't. It's fine to just visualize to the best of your ability. Not everybody is visual. It really doesn't matter. So, even if you prefer to affirm or meditate on the affirmation, then that's fine. Do that instead. Or just have an idea of your desire in mind. It does not have to be a cinematic masterpiece. As I've said before, you don't need to be director of cinematography. You already know what your desire is. So, just imagine it and keep it simple. Doesn't have to be big, drawn out scenes either. Just something very simple. It's a second or a few seconds long, right? Now, when you have the idea of the desire in mind, focus on it completely. Drop into it. Relax into the body and imagine that you already have this desire. Feel how it feels when you imagine that you are already experiencing it right now in the present moment with your eyes closed in meditation. Now, don't worry if it doesn't feel true or you don't really believe it. Imagine that it is true. Imagine that you do believe it. You can imagine anything. You can imagine that the desire is true, even if you don't currently feel convinced that it is. This is not about convincing yourself, it's about entering altered states of mind. You can imagine that anything is true. You can imagine that you are stroking a pink elephant right now. You know it's not true, but you're imagining that it is. So, as you imagine that the desire is true, that you are already experiencing it, allow this feeling to magnify and notice where it arises in the body. So, this is going to be your anchor point. And the feeling does not have to be an emotion, by the way. It can be sensation. It doesn't have to feel much like anything. Sometimes it is subtle. So, notice that and stay in this sensation and relax into it as much as you can until you feel ready to slowly come out of your meditation and stay in the realization that you are now in alignment. That's all it takes to get into alignment, just that. So, how do we stay there? Okay, so you've put your destination into the navigator, but what about the road bumps along the way? This is where emotional regulation matters. Now, if you have an emotional regulation technique that you really enjoy that helps you, just do that. You don't need 10 different techniques for every single thing. Like, I will often get questions like, what do I do if I'm having opposing thoughts? What do I do if I'm feeling fear? What about when I'm feeling angry? What about when I'm remembering something from the past and I'm worrying about that? What about if I'm feeling anxious? What about if I'm spiraling in my thoughts and I keep thinking something that I don't want to think? What if this happens in the circumstances? What if this what if this third party situation appears that's going to take my desires away from me? There's no unique situation. It's all the same. You deal with it all the exact same way. You don't need all these different techniques. Just find the one that works for you. The one that works for me is to breathe into the body, become aware of myself as consciousness. So, returning back to my true nature and observing whatever is arising, whether it's a thought, a feeling, emotion, an opinion, a perception, a circumstance, a reaction, whatever it is, same thing. Drop into the body, feel into that. Notice myself as the observer. This brings me out of this illusion of the separate self. Then I will just love whatever is arising and accept it as perfect, and it doesn't matter because it doesn't. None of these things have any power to manifest on their own. And as we bring them into our awareness, they begin to dissolve. And then you can start to feel a sense of peace, a sense of calm as you reconnect with your true nature. And the reason you feel this peace and calm is because that is the truth. It's the absolute truth. That really is who you are. When you are wrapped up in the illusion of a separate self, it doesn't always feel good. The feeling good is conditional when you're wrapped up in the separate self. Feeling good is based on what you perceive to be outside of yourself. It's not based on your true nature of who you truly are. So when you access your true nature, you automatically feel better because your true nature is that. It is bliss, it is joy, it is peace, it is love, it is union. So just notice these things as they arise. And when you start to feel better, then you can move yourself back into the realization of alignment. You can go deeper into alignment. You never came out of it. And now, whatever was arising before has actually just been a permission slip to go even deeper. So it actually helped you. It was actually a good thing, not a bad thing, not an obstacle. And this is how you can use everything to your advantage in your life. And the more you practice this, the easier it will become over time. So you can try the technique that I have said, and I also have some videos on this as well on my channel. Or you can use whatever emotional regulation technique works best for you. It really doesn't matter. As long as it works well for you, it does the job, that's fine. So, the first step of staying in alignment is to use an emotional regulation method when you feel yourself being drawn into the limiting stories of the self. And then the second thing is to create the conditions for alignment. Now, some people don't like it when I say this, and a lot of people tend to overlook or miss this point because they don't see it as significant. And also because manifestation community is very cerebral. We are talking about using the mind, we're talking about thinking, but actually maintaining alignment is somatic. So you may be able to think your way into alignment, but staying there is somatic. You can't think your way into staying there. Otherwise, it will just be a mental battle, which I can bet already that you've already experienced that. Once we get into alignment, we don't want to stay up in the realm of the head. We want to drop into the feelings, the sensations of the body and remain grounded there. So have a look at your lifestyle and how your everyday life supports that. Ask yourself, are the conditions in place to support the continued alignment with the state? Are you constantly rushing from one thing to the next? Are you constantly worrying, thinking how to do things, thinking what you will need to do next in order to get your manifestation? Are you numbing yourself out with certain substances? And these don't have to be illegal, by the way. It could also be binge eating junk food, it could be scrolling social media, all of the things that draw you out of your true nature, back into that story of self, back into the realm of the head. And it makes staying in alignment harder. It is easier to maintain alignment and therefore experience your desires faster and more effectively if your lifestyle supports it. And this isn't about judging yourself but assessing what feels good. So for me personally, one habit that I have had is the moment my alarm goes off in the morning, I check my phone. I look at my messages, I check my emails. I would then start scrolling on social media. I would check my comments, any DMs that any direct messages that I have. Then I would start scrolling through the social media news feed, and already I'm not feeling good. I feel overwhelmed. I'm being mindless instead of intentional and conscious. And this does not feel as good as when I do start my morning in an intentional way, where I don't look at my devices for at least 2 hours after waking up. When I wake up, meditate, do a little breath work, stretch, take a shower, then go about my day. When I follow a morning routine like this, it is much easier for me to stay anchored in alignment because I'm already being more intentional. And when you are being more present and intentional with your everyday life and how you go about things, remember how you do one thing is how you do everything, your focus is pointed inwards rather than outwards, and you become less reactive and drawn into the stories of the self during the day. It becomes easier to come back to that baseline because your lifestyle, the conditions around it are already in place to make it easier for you to stay there. And what's funny is that when you do all of these steps that I just mentioned, the feeling that most people try to induce when they are getting into the state because they think it's a mood happens naturally on its own. So when we connect with our true nature and we keep the conditions or the lifestyle in place to allow us to stay there, and we use anything that comes up to our advantage to deepen our alignment and go further into our true nature, the feelings of joy and bliss and love and union and oneness happen automatically on their own. And these are the true experiences of happiness, love, joy, and peace because they're not being induced by something. You're not trying to convince yourself that this is how you feel in order to stay in that mood all day because you think that that's being in the desired state. They happen automatically on their own because the conditions are now in place for them to happen on their own. You're now coming from your true nature, and your true nature is all of those things. It is happiness, it is love, it is joy, bliss, union, peace, calm. It is all of those things already, contentment, wholeness, fulfillment. I could go on. And this will just become your natural experience without you having to try. Whereas most of the time, because people think their state is a mood, they try to induce that feeling and those feelings. And then when they are drawn out of those feelings, they think that they're no longer in alignment. They get frustrated and they actually bring themselves out of alignment. So, if I could summarize this video, I would say keep it simple. Hope this helps.